You are listening to SPN, the Sports Podcasting Network.
ترمين هناك لشوارشتايجر جول.
Va a pegarle Ronaldinho Gaucho. Ya lo hace. Pierna derecha, directo al arco. ¡Golazo! 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 ¡Golazo!
This is Soccer Today, live on SPN Radio, your new live show about the beautiful game in all its glory, with Duane, Rollins and Kevin Laramee. MLS, EPL, La Liga, Champions League, all is fair game. Powered by the Sports Podcasting Network. Visit us at sportspodcastingnetwork.com.
And we are back on Soccer Today. I'm Kevin Laramee, joined by Duane Rollins. As always, Duane is on the phone today. Duane, we talked yesterday about Wayne Shaw and Pygate. More development in that crazy story. It turns out it's exactly what we said it was. He saw the bet. I thought it was funny. All the lads were in. It's going to be fun. I prepared it. I made it. It was meat and potato. And Wayne Shaw has resigned as backup goalkeeper for Sutton United.
Well, I hope that pie was good because it was his, the end of his career. Although he was 44 and the roly-poly goalie, so this was the pinnacle of where his career was going to go anyway. But
it's the highlight of his career. Like, he made every single highlight package show across the world with the slow motion replay of the first bite into that flaky pastry stuffed with meat and potato.
Yeah, it was his 15 minutes of fame. Certainly, he lived them to the fullest. Like we said, he probably wasn't going to play much longer anyway, even if he wasn't really playing. Nonetheless, it was his moment. We explained sort of why the more darker side of it yesterday. I'm not going to go back into it today, but it is a slippery slope. Playing with the gambling world when you're trying to manipulate bets, and it's why prop bets like that, although funny, are kind of ultimately dangerous. So
yeah,
we'll move on from that.
If you're involved in any shape or form with the game, it is dangerous. It is a slippery slope. If you are not, if you are 100% removed and you're just a fan of the game, then it's a little different. Yes, but at least I'm just glad to know, at least the official side of it, it's just him and his buddies, and I thought it would be funny, and he thought he wanted to use that platform of playing against Arsenal as a let's have fun. And with that bet too, and the bet, because the thing is, it's the sponsor of the team, so that's where it gets convoluted. So he has resigned, and we're moving on. Speaking of moving on, we'll talk about the Champions League in the second block today. But the first block, we'll talk another Champions League. CONCACAF Champions League resumed yesterday, Duane, and tonight we have an MLS matchup, Vancouver against the Red Bulls, a very important match for both clubs, trying to do a good run in the CONCACAF to have a historical night like a Montreal Impact dubbed it a few years ago. What is your overall thought on this year's CCL's matchup, especially Vancouver versus New York?
Well, obviously MLS will be guaranteed a semifinal berth. I think with Dallas playing Laramee on Thursday, it seems likely that Dallas might get through that too. So we could very likely be in line for another MLS team going deep. Now, the Whitecaps on this first leg in the road, there's a lot of questions. And unfortunately for those that were hoping that this might be the debut of Freddie Montero, his fitness isn't quite where they want it to be yet. So they've actually left him back in Vancouver to continue to train, which will likely disappoint a lot of people there. Also, we have several injuries in that lineup. We don't quite know where any of the goals are going to come from for the Whitecaps because both their new signing, Renya, the Peruvian, and he's out along with Montero, as we just said. So it's going to be a lot of questions up top, but that's the same old when you're talking about the Vancouver Whitecaps. I think it's kind of fun. It feels like the start of the season in the sense that we do have a competitive game to watch, but it's always so weird to watch these ones this early when these MLS teams are still in camp, and that this is all obviously going to be the same problem next year when Toronto joins this competition and are going to be possibly drawn in around the 32 against the Mexican team, perhaps. Although I think that it might be sorry, it's around 16, but I think that they might. I have a feeling that they might get a seed. That's just a hunch because there are 16 teams, not 8. So it's possible that the Canadian team will get seeded to play a weaker team in it. But nonetheless, it's still going to be a challenge. That's a year away. This one does have the advantage of 2 MLS teams playing each other, so they're both in the same sort of boat, Kevin.
Yeah, Red Bulls in Vancouver, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. The other matchup tonight, we've talked about all MLS. There's an All Liga MX matchup tonight, 10 p.m. Very interesting, Tigres and Pumas. And Tigres in the weekend, they were playing an away game against a bottom team of Liga MX. They're the 20th right now. Their name escapes me. But there was some fighting in the stands after the game between supporters. A very sad sight to see. You see Gignac and the Tigres players on the pitch and the coach looking at what's going on in the stands, telling security to go help the supporters. There's going to be sanctions and there's going to be a lot of repercussion from that match. But Tigres Pumas tonight, a matchup of 2 big teams of Liga MX. It's interesting to see what of those 2 is going to move up. Pumas and Tigres are not Club America saying that it's new this year. Club America has been dominating this competition for 3 years. They're not going to do so this year. So Tigres and Pumas might carry the Mexican torch in this competition. But going back to Red Bulls in Vancouver, Duane, Red Bulls not having an easy offseason. Yeah, continuation is the word of the training camp, but the Ali Curtis situation and Dax McCarthy trade that happened very quickly and very weird have created a lot of tension. And Jesse March has reacted very swiftly by saying in press conferences yesterday, like, I'm not going to answer any questions about Ali Curtis or about Dax McCarthy. Let's talk about the Champions League. So there's a certain aura of uncertainness right now with the Red Bulls as well.
Yeah, no doubt. We didn't talk about the Ali Curtis situation, actually. It just sort of fell in a weird place. It has an element of same old Metro stars, right? Like same old Metro's kind of chaos to it, that they would move on so quickly from a guy that was shaping that club. And a lot of people thought that him and Marsh were sort of attached to the hip, but now Marsh has maybe made a power play to have greater control in that club. So you can understand the drama around that. It's very New York kind of, and sort of seems like someone had to walk the plank at any rate. The Red Bulls, I think in terms of their preseason preparation for this tie, though, they to me anyway, and maybe this is just because I have more of a critical eye on the Whitecaps typically, but to me they seem like they might be more prepared. That said, Marsh in that press conference said, and quote unquote, in many ways, we don't feel totally prepared. So obviously, some of those issues that I spoke to about a minute ago, in terms of MLS teams always struggling a little bit to get things going. We'll play a role tonight.
Yeah, I have to say, Duane, when you're looking at all the clubs remaining in this competition, right? There was a game yesterday. So Deportivo Saprissa, probably the best, if not the second best, depending on the year, the team in Costa Rica. Saprissa with Liga Deportiva Alajuelense, Johan Venegas' former club, and Benitez Floro current club, Saprissa, and Pachuca, the Mexican club that the Impact eliminated in the quarterfinals 2 years ago, 0-0 yesterday. And you have Tigres and Pumas tonight, and FC Dallas, Arabe Unido. Those are the 8 teams remaining. Duane, it's open. If the winner of Vancouver and Red Bulls or Dallas, because let's face it, Arabe Unido is the 8th team in those 8. They're the 8th. It's open. If there's a year, it's like unfortunate almost that it's the Red Bulls and Vancouver that are both in it, because if you're looking at a team with a lot of power, this year, it might be the year where it's possible to beat the Mexican club in the final, either Pachuca, Tigres, or Pumas, depending on who makes it there. Because let's face it, one of those 3 will be in the final, probably against one of the three MLS teams. So it's open. You almost have a shot of winning the whole thing this year.
We'll see. I take the view that I will believe that an MLS team can beat a Liga MX team when I see an MLS team beat a Liga MX team in the final. Kevin, I would suggest that the winner of the Tigres Pumas Ty might be the favorite to capture this. That's where I stand at the moment. But we'll see. As I said, in terms of the MLS teams, though, I might suggest that the Dallas of the three is obviously, because they're the defending Supporters Shield champions. They, other than a bad injury at a bad time, were kind of out of would have, I think, been in line to be that. I think the Toronto fans might have had to travel to Dallas, is what I'm saying, if there wasn't an injury at the other time, and they may have, in fact, pulled off the treble, that's historic treble, and they are in line and sort of getting that way, or looking to try and repeat that this year, starting with a CCL run. That said, Pumas, 7th place in the Liga MX table right now. They might be my pick to be the favorite in this. Pachuca's just above them too as well. So look, these are great teams that have a lot of depth, and you saw it firsthand what happened when they turned the screw in the second half against Montreal in that big game up at the Big O, right?
Yeah,
that's America, but it's the same thing.
Yeah, true. It's always that situation. But if there was a year for it to happen, at least the 3 Mexican club in here, well, Club America is not there, so there's a drop off. So Pachuca, Tigres, and Pumas, they're going to be difficult to beat in a final. Not saying it's going to be easy, but if there 1 year that the actual players could fancy their chances, could be this year.
Well, the one thing is that Rebe Yanando, as we said, the Panamanian team, Toronto FC fans will be familiar with them. They played them a couple times in the CCL back in the day. They took out a Mexican team in this, and it escapes me right now which team it was, but there's only 3 teams in the quarterfinals, which is unique. There's usually 4. So that does mean that there's a door open there for someone to get through, and it does make it slightly more likely. I still, as I said, you got to believe. I believe it will happen when it happens. To go back to tonight's game, though, look, the Whitecaps, as I said, the injury issues are Matero not being healthy, Edgar's out as well. That adds some confusion there. I talked about the problems up front. From a Canadian perspective, we may get to see a couple guys get a significant role out there. Russell Tybert is in line to perhaps start. Alfonso Davies might get a run out, and that's pretty exciting too. So there are some good things to watch for from a Canadian men's national team sort of perspective tonight, and there's not much good there to watch, so we might as well watch that with their eye to that. It's going to be interesting on the Red Bull side as well. Possibility with some injuries and some re-signings and so off, that we might see a couple of those young players that the Red Bulls are thinking are going to be good enough to replace some of the veteran talent that's been out there before. One name that jumps out was last year's Red Bulls 2, the USL champions last year. Aaron Long was the defender of the year in the USL. Jesse Marsh has really had a high on him, saying that he might likely emerge as a starter this year, as a regular starter this year. He looks to probably get the start this tonight, and that will be something for people to watch that are interested in this kind of new pathway at MLS, where you go through the USL and you pay your dues down there. His kid's 24, so he's not a kid anymore, right? But he has sort of come through that more traditional North American farm team to regular team kind of process, and now he looks to be a starter, and that's allowing them to make some of the moves in different ways. So that'll be something to watch from the Red Bulls perspective, Kevin.
You mentioned the Red Bulls, and for some reason Dax McCarthy flashed in my mind, and I just saw the goal that Chicago Fire scored, and I played it in my mind again. If you haven't seen it, 2 days ago, the Chicago Fire, during a preseason game, scored one of the nicest team goals I've seen in a long time, especially by a Major League Soccer club. Like 20-something passes, growing, just moving forward on the pitch, getting close to net, boom, 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 scores. An actual very beautiful goal. If you haven't seen it, just go on social media, type Chicago Fire goal. They don't have a lot of goals, so it's going to be the first one that pops up.
Fair enough. Well, there are some people, if you listen to the so-called experts, of which we're technically, I suppose, supposed to be too. But if you listen to some people out there, they are suggesting that the Fire might be a sweeper team this year. But I'm starting to think that might be one of those, like, I'm trying to be contrarian for the sake of it things. So we'll see. Back-to-back bottom of the East. So it's difficult to see them being that competitive that quickly. But nonetheless, we'll see. Let's end this block by sort of getting predictions on how we think tonight and this overall tie is going to go. Kevin and I, in case you missed it, are going to take a bit of a refresh the batteries break for the rest of this week. So we won't actually review this game until next week, until we preview the second leg. So we'll sort of wrap it up into one right now and get our predictions and sort of maybe even get a prediction for overall who you think will end up winning the CCL in the end after these knockout stage games are all done. So, Kevin, you go first. How do you think tonight's going to go, and how do you think the tie is going to go?
I think because both teams are in their training camp, basically, Vancouver and Red Bulls will have a very tentative first few minutes, feeling themselves out, feeling the process, trusting the process, not pushing it too much, not wanting to get an injury. It will be a 0-0 or 1-1. Nothing spectacular tonight. I do feel that both clubs are going to agree to let the second leg be the decisive one. So in that match, I'm not expecting anything because, well, teams in preseason, depending of how it unfolds, and if there's a young guy who comes in the pitch, maybe a 16-year-old now, Alfonso Davies, I believe, if he comes in and decide to, you know what, I'm going to go all out, maybe there's a possibility for a surprising goal in a moment for Canadian soccer in this game. That is possible, but I don't have a lot of expectations on that game. 0-0. Tigres and Pumas, on the other hand, when you're looking at the Mexican side, in the middle of the season, it's the Apertura in this time of year. I always confuse them because I don't speak Spanish, so it's not necessarily easy for me to understand what it means, Apertura. But Tigres and Pumas tonight, two teams that are close to each other in the Liga MX and the standings, and tonight they will battle it out on the pitch for a chance to maybe go to a semifinal and maybe face an MLS team and then going to the final and maybe going to raise that trophy. Because, yes, we do feel that the winner of this match will go on to maybe win the whole thing. But I feel that Tigres at home will get the 1-0 2-1 result, by one goal at least.
All right. I think it's the closed season, by the way, but yes.
Close your eyes. So there you go.
Yeah. They are just 7 games into that season. So, put a quarter of the way through that. In terms of tonight and the overall tie in New York and Vancouver, and again, with apologies to Whitecaps fans, I'm not comfortable with their offseason so far, particularly with Montero not available. I think they're probably going to go in looking for the 0-0, as you said. What makes me think that this might be a good opportunity for the Red Bulls is they have so much depth that can be put into a CCL situation with their young players that I believe that might be the tipping point, and that might be the difference in this tie, because they just have a little bit more that I think are game ready and ready to go. USL champions last year, as we just said a minute ago. I think they can rely on that, some fresher, younger legs playing at home. I do think the Red Bulls have to be the favorite tonight. I do think that they probably will want to get this done and dusted. If the Red Bulls can put like 3 behind, then they can travel with the skeleton squad out west, I think, and they might like to do that. So I am picking the Red Bulls. I'm picking the Red Bulls pretty solidly. In terms of the overall, as I said a minute ago, I think that either one of Pachuca, Tigres, or Pumas is the favorite for this event. So in terms of tonight, who knows? But I've always liked Pumas. I like their strips in particular. So that's where my cheering interest goes, because they just have the best strips in North American football. So that's my hashtag analysis right there. Pumas will win because their jerseys are better.
Yeah, the jerseys will transcend the opponent and transfix them, and they will lack the extra second, and Pumas will run circles around them. Yeah, that's possible. We'll take a break and come back and talk about a crazy game in the Champions League. And crazy game.
You are listening to Soccer Today, live on SPN Radio. Visit sportspodcastingnetwork.com for more.
So, Duane, we talk about Manchester City a lot, and yesterday in the Champions League was the first leg of the round of 16 in the knockout stage, and Manchester City was playing against Monaco, and on the tide and on paper you would feel that Man City would dominate. I have to say, this match turned out to be a cracker.
Oh yeah, classic. I was joking that this is going to end up being one of those games that you just YouTube over and over again in the future to remember the moment, because and it's funny, you don't realize you're watching a classic game sometimes until you're in the middle of watching a classic game and you sort of have to pinch yourself because it's transcending everything around you. And that's how I felt yesterday. I did manage to get out of work early and get to Opera Bob's here in Toronto. So I was in a crowd. It wasn't a huge crowd because it was a work day, but nonetheless, it was, a decent sized amount of people within the pub watching that. And, it started out pretty normal. It's frustrating because Monaco was getting the upper hand, as you mentioned. They are in many ways a bad fit for City in the sense that they have such pace and can sort of put pressure on their back line and their desire to build from the back so much. And that's what's killed them all year. In many ways, they play like Leicester does. And as we remember, Leicester has really, really been difficult for City to deal with over the past year and a half because of that sort of speed and pressure that they put on them. In the first half, after City got the lead, we're sort of sitting back going, okay, well, let's just try and find a second and play this out. But then it got crazy. And look, it was like an opera, man. Like that game, like in the second half, became like just bizarre in the sense that it was goal after goal. 5-3 is an absurd scoreline for football, of course, and 4-2 in the other game. So a lot of goals in the Champions League yesterday. There's things that happen that we kind of forget. Like, I mean, there should have been a penalty in the first half. It was, stone cold penalty that wasn't called, and instead was called simulation in terms of Aguero. The only thing I can sort of justify a little bit from the referee's position is, and they sort of brought this up on the panel at halftime on TSN, is that, Tevez is a smart guy and he does tend to start to go down when he knows that he's going to get, Aguero, when he starts to get hit, like he knows he's going to get hit, he knows he's not going to get the ball, so he sort of plays to the context. That might be what the referee was calling, but there's no doubt that he got clipped.
Oh yeah, it's a combination of both. He got clipped, but as soon as he felt the clip, he didn't fight it. He helped it a little bit. A lot, maybe. Yeah.
No, and if you look back to Aguero's most famous goal, he was fouled there and fought through it. So it's not like he can't, right? If he takes the advantage.
Yeah, he decides to. Yeah, he's in the box and he sees he's on one-on-one with the defender or with the goalkeeper, and he's like, yeah, I'm not gonna fight that one. I'll just help it. I'm just gonna. Oh yeah, and right away when both you mentioned the arms often. But the ankles too, and both ankles are like at the same angle, falling down. Yeah.
Yeah. And anyway, so that happened, and then of course they got a second. Well, Monaco got a penalty in the second half, and they stopped it. City stopped it. I think I said that to someone yesterday. It's like we're going to be talking about this game 5 years from now. We're going to go, oh yeah, Willie stopped the penalty.
Yeah, like Claudio who? Exactly.
Yeah, it was crazy. And then Falco coming back as the Manchester United player that didn't do anything there, comes back and torments the cross city rivals. Just looks dangerous all game. It was just one of those crazy. And Aguero's goal, that volley, that was world class. That's something that happened in that too as well. He also had like a goal that looked like I was in
John Stone. John Stone scored a goal.
Oh, yeah, he did. First goal of his career in the Champions League. He also gave up a goal.
Yes, exactly, which is very John Stones like.
The third goal there too. Look, football is, when it's chaotic, is so exciting. They call it. It is a classic game in the sense that it had all of the entertaining aspects and moments that you want in that. And in a neutral, it would have been spectacular to watch as a neutral. It was spectacular to watch as a partisan, just stressful at times. But it wasn't a classically defended game, that's for sure. The thing that, tactically speaking, what we did see in it, as I said, is the tale of both teams trying to get out there. Monaco really did put pressure on City in the first half and was able to sort of get forward and do the things and make where City is most vulnerable, put them in pressure where City's most vulnerable. What City did very well is they stuck with their game plan and wore them down. And that's, I think, what you saw in the last 20 minutes of that game when City got the 3 goals. Was that they had just worn them down. They were physically fitter. They were physically stronger than Monaco, and they were able to have that play out and reward them in the end. 5-3 heading into the second leg. Who knows what the second leg is going to look like? Because, Monaco has to go out and score now, which means this is going to be open. And as we know, City can be vulnerable. So in some ways, I think that City is going to go into that second game looking to score themselves too. So I'm not going to guarantee 5-3 again, but we might see a 3-1 or a 3-2 or something like that. And I think that will be a great game to fire up your PVR if you can't watch it live, Kevin.
Yeah, and the other game yesterday was Bayer Leverkusen versus Atletico Madrid. 4-2 for Atleti. Fernando Torres scored for Madrid. Another good performance, another great game, by the way. And Leverkusen has been struggling lately in the Bundesliga, but have managed to score 2 at home. It's not going to be easy on the road. We're not going to say easy, but at least haven't been totally outclassed in that game, getting 2 goals themselves. And it's a long shot, but still having a sense of hope, at least heading into the second leg. But Atleti got a job done with 4 goals.
Yeah, Chicharito almost tied that game, almost got the lead for
Yeah.
or tied it, I guess what it would have been, and then Atleti went down to the other side, and Torres scored what was a really nice goal. Torres is a funny guy that you just, when you forget he's still out there, he'll go and do something. And once again, and if they avoid each other in the draw, I could see Atleti and Real playing again in the final. They just, Atletico Madrid knows how to win in this competition. They know how to play in this competition. They know how to get it done. That wasn't a typical way for them to win yesterday, but they still got it done, and they got it done on the road. So that will, really set them up well. And this is going to be, I think, a dangerous team that you're going to want to avoid in the draw. I can't see them allowing 2 again anytime soon. That's just not really their way. I think I think a lot of people out there, if you're not a Madrid fan of either side, will be cheering for them to draw each other earlier because, as I said, they might be a dangerous. We might get it the 3rd time in 4 years, that final, right?
Yeah.
Today's
game, Duane. This game number 2, Sevilla, Leicester City. That game is fascinating. Sevilla, now out of their Europa League curse,
yeah,
finally in the Champions League in the knockout stage, and they're playing Leicester. They're probably salivating right now when they look at the matchup and especially the form of Leicester in the league. What's going to happen in Sevilla tonight? Is it going to be a very difficult night for the Foxes in Spain?
Yeah, it seems that way. But look, has there ever been a less fancied team in the Champions League knockout stage? I'm not sure. Sometimes there's been some smaller teams that have gotten through before, but in terms of a team that came out of nowhere to qualify and has fallen off the cliff in the preceding season, this is just a unique situation. And they did well to get out of there. They had a pretty easy group, but they still did well.
They won their first 3 matches in the group stage. Yeah. Like, they actually had their best moment of this current season in the Champions League in the fall.
Yeah, and so I'm hesitant to say that it's just going to be a whitewash tonight, but I
look at them win. Look at them win like 3-0 tonight in Sevilla.
Yeah, maybe. I have trouble thinking that because the Spanish teams tend to be pretty. They tend not to cough it up too much, and to be, as you said, jokes aside about the Europa League perennial Europa League champions, that does mean that they know how to win in Europe, though, right? And they know how to win ties. That's something that I don't think can be overlooked.
And if there's one of the matches or the matchup left that actually looks like a Europa one, like a Europa League one, it's that one.
Well, for sure, yeah. That's hell, it's a bit fanciful even for that because even Leicester City in Europa would have been absurd a couple years ago. But well, yeah. All logic suggests that this is not going to be pretty for Leicester City tonight. But the only caveat to that is their form in Europe was fine. That said, I think this is a different test. My prediction on that one is that I don't think they'll be blown out. I think that they'll play with enough pride and they'll be up for this game enough because they also realize it's all they have left in the season, other than fighting against relegation, which can't be that inspiring after you won a title. Really, this is the highlight of it. So I think that they'll probably be up for it. Any sort of potential divides in that room that are causing problems domestically, I think will be put aside for the night. So I don't think that they're going to get destroyed or embarrassed, but I do think that over the course of 2 legs that the experience of Sevilla winning those Europa titles and just the form difference will make this a fairly comfortable tie for them, but maybe not an embarrassing tie for Leicester.
And just to finish the show, Duane, the other matchup, if you were telling me this is 1994 and those 2 are playing, I would think it's the final. But no, FC Porto, Juventus in the quarters. I did have a runaway, sorry.
St. Clair West Derby, if you want to get into some Toronto-centric stuff here. But, it would be the St. Clair West Derby. That's going to be interesting down that way today. Look, Uwe is often a forgotten team in this competition. They made the final a couple years ago, of course, but I think that, I don't know, they've been so dominant in Italy for the past few years, and other than that one run to the final, we sort of forget about them in the Champions League. We never really consider them up with the big Spanish clubs or with Bayern Munich in terms of being perennial favorites, but they're right there in that second tier. I think they might be the best of the rest, sort of thing, in this competition. And with this being a bit of a weaker year, I think overall, I could see Uwe finding a way to maybe get back to a final. But as I said a minute ago, I'm still tipping the Madrid clubs to be standing on top of the mountain when this is all said and done.
Yeah, with the current form, it's going to be difficult for Barcelona to turn around that disadvantage. But if you're looking at Madrid, especially Real, they're playing Napoli again in the second leg in March. They have that 2 goals advantage. So I wouldn't be surprised if Real makes a run for it. But Porto Juventus could be interesting matchup today. Juventus, maybe the favorite in that matchup. But FC Porto have realized some interesting result of the last 2 years, going on interesting cup run in Portugal, having some of their players in the Euro last summer, winning it. It's going to be interesting to see if they can carry over that confidence in knockout stages games. I'm maybe pushing it a little, but it could be a possibility, but I do fancy Juventus in that matchup.
All right. On that note, Kevin, we are going to wrap right now. And as we said yesterday, we are going to take, and earlier the show as well, we're going to take the next 2 days off, the 23rd and 24th, and come back at you on February 27th. That will be the start of our sprint to the start of MLS. We will preview the seasons. We'll try and talk to as many guests from out of market that week to preview the season. We'll finish on a Friday, March 3rd. We'll finish with our annual preview show, which is One You Want to Save. Although I did pick Dallas last year to win the Spurs Ships the record, but we'll come out with our actual predictions for the season on March 3rd. We'll preview as much as we can, and it'll be very MLS focused all week. There's no European games, so we'll be able to do that. But we're going to take the next 4 days off to sort of book some guests and to recharge the batteries and come back at you daily, because once we hit March 6th, we'll be reviewing games again, Kevin.
Yeah, and speaking of games, there's a game tonight as well, the preseason in Tampa Bay. The Montreal Impact are facing the Philadelphia Union. You can watch that game on YouTube on the Union page. It's going to be called by Mark Serber, friend of the show, and you can look forward to having probably Mark on the show next week to talk about USL, MLS, and other soccer topic. Until next Monday. Well, enjoy your Champions League, enjoy this weekend, and have a great soccer. You were listening to SPN, the Sports Podcasting Network. Visit us, sportspodcastingnetwork.com.